At least two major cities in the U.S. are seeing Muslim socialist mayoral candidates having success in primary elections. And the U.S. Catholic bishops continue to place themselves in the middle of the politics of immigration. With analysis of these stories and more, we're joined by political commentator, senior political editor at The Blaze, Chris Bedford. Chris, thanks for being here. Last month, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, the president, Archbishop Timothy Broglio, issued a statement on immigration in which he affirmed support for all immigrants, regardless of their status. Then, last Sunday, Miami Archbishop Wensky led a motorcycle ride with a group of 25 members of the Knights of Columbus, Knights on bikes, to the gates of the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility. He held a prayer service, a rally there, a rosary for the men and women inside. Wensky has requested to be allowed to offer Mass inside the facility, but that has yet to be granted. Just this week, Archbishop Nelson Perez of Philadelphia issued a pastoral letter on immigration in support of the migrant community and asking for comprehensive immigration reform. Chris, your thoughts on the growing number of Catholic bishops taking a stand on this issue of immigration and involving themselves in the political debate. Why do you think they're so attached to this issue?
I think that it's complicated, right? I mean, there is a Catholic call to charity. There's a Catholic call to mercy on the prisoner. There's a Catholic call to prayer, to come and pray for people who are detained and people who have committed crimes, or people who are going through hardship. And I understand that, but sometimes it seems a little disordered, the different order that is given to which politically expedient person is above the others. Which is it? Does the junkie fit in with the illegal immigrant? Does that person fit in with the murderer? Does that person fit in with whoever else broke the law? Where do the unborn come in here? Where does the sanctity of marriage come involved in this? Where was so many of these bishops when it was simply Cardinal Leone out there fighting for the Eucharist during COVID and saying you can't close the churches? That silence was deafening. So I'm happy to see the bishops engaged in public life. I'm extremely unhappy to see places like Catholic Charities taking so much money from the government and taking so much money from foreign governments and from international non-state actors to try and subvert countries' immigration laws. But at the end of the day, you have to protect the country you're in and obey the laws that you're in and the people there. Now, some of these priests are going to be torn because they have a lot of parishioners, people who come there and pray in their church who may be fearful that they're going to be deported because they came here, they broke the law, or they've got family or people that they know and care about who broke the law. There's a kind of a pastoral role for priests in there to try and help those people and guide those people, but it got to end at pushing for people to break the law or saying that there should be no borders. That's not something that the Vatican acknowledges, and it's not something that the Catholic West has ever acknowledged, and it's something that's political now.
Well, look, I know some bishops have expressed concern about the state of this Alligator Alcatraz facility. They say it's dehumanizing. Maybe it's the title. But in reality, there are federal standards, Chris, for all these facilities, which this Alligator Alcatraz apparently meets those standards. Your thoughts on this and the reticence to offer pastoral care at that particular place, which is something I have to say, I don't understand why they wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, if a priest or a bishop asks to give Mass, then you should allow that priest or bishop to give Mass. Of course, you have to be careful if that priest or bishop is an activist who's shown ulterior motives, someone who may put the guards in danger. A lot of those guards and a lot of the agents down there, people who I've known representing the federal government and reporters that I've sent representing the news media to Alligator Alcatraz are all Catholic. A large number of them are. So it's on all sides of this. You can't put the guards in danger. But the people who I know, good church-going, prayerful Catholics who have mercy in their heart and just want to see the laws of this country followed and get dangerous people out of this country, people we don't know, who are Catholic, who are down there, have told me that it's an uncomfortable place to be, for sure. It's a temporary place to be. It's a detainment center in an uncomfortable part of the country, but it is meeting federal standards. It's not like people are starving. The complaints there from some of the prisoners has been that the bread's not toasted. Well, that historically is not a really serious complaint to have about your detainment when you've broken the law.
Yeah, and they have air conditioning, they have medical facilities there. Yes. I mean, I've spoken to a number of people who've been on site. I think, again, the title frightens people when they hear alligator Alcatraz. Unless they're feeding the immigrants to the alligators, it's not a problem. Chris, my father was an immigrant who followed the law, got a sponsor, served in the military, and became a citizen. Yet there's this tendency, especially among some in the hierarchy, to conflate immigrants following the law, following the process, checking in with the government, working towards citizenship, with those who crash the borders and are in violation of the law. Does this really appeal to Catholic voters when Catholic hierarchs refuse to make that distinction clear?
No, I think it's a turnoff, and I think that a lot of the Democratic policies have been a turnoff as well. A lot of for example, the state that's right near where I'm at right now, Maryland, where we're both at, is one. Their Democratic senator went down to El Salvador, and he was trying to talk to free this Maryland man who was associated with MS-13, who was here illegally. And all of the subtitles for his video were not in Spanish. They weren't. He wasn't talking to his Spanish constituents, his Spanish language constituents. He was talking to his English constituents. They were his white women, Democratic women constituents. All the subtitles were in English. Those are the main constituency for this. If you talk to members of the Customs and Border Patrol, which is constantly villainized by the Democratic Party, huge numbers of them are Hispanic. Huge numbers of them are children of immigrants, people who came here legally through the process. And if you look at the polling in favor of deportations, it is extremely high amongst the immigrant communities, the legal immigrant communities, because those are the neighborhoods, not mine, most likely not yours, where MS-13 is a threat, where our children are being drawn into gangs, where violence is a daily problem because of illegal immigrants. So they're in favor of it, and there's a disconnect there from some of the hierarchy.
Yeah. A Massachusetts federal judge on Tuesday issued a ruling blocking a provision in the One Big Beautiful Bill that stopped taxpayer funding of Planned Parenthood and other abortion centers. In a July 21st ruling, a federal judge decided that the law does not apply to abortion businesses like Planned Parenthood and granted the organization's request for a temporary injunction while the lawsuit progresses. Chris, you'll be hard-pressed to find a reaction from the U.S. bishops on this very pro-life bill, one they have asked for decades, the defunding of Planned Parenthood. And once again, first of all, give me your thoughts on that, and then your thoughts on this federal judge frustrating the will of Congress.
I don't think it's particularly surprising on the bishop's part. That's why I agree with the old Holy Roman Emperor Leopold, who said, Ferdinand, who said that he would sooner get off his horse to carry the lowly parish priest on his shoulder and just as quickly put the bishop in prison in the high tower, because there's such a difference between the bishops and the priests in so many of these circumstances and their interest in what they're going after. And if you go and look at the staff of the College of Cardinals, there's a couple people, particularly in the abortion office, who are very hardline, who are very traditional, who take their Catholic duty seriously. But so many of the other staff are left-wing activists. That's what brought them here, and they use it just another one of their NGOs, another one of their tools to push these sorts of things. And this Massachusetts judge is totally emblematic of a thing that we've seen with judges from Massachusetts before, from California, and from around the country. People who never would have been confirmed if there was still a filibuster on federal judges and you needed 60 votes. Left-wing activists who are continuously flouting the Congress, flouting the presidency, and flouting the Supreme Court because they know that this is going to be a path to promotion if Democrats ever come back to power. And they care more about that than they care about the actual law, which is a problem.
Zoran Mondani, we have to talk about him. He's that New York State Assembly member, a Democratic socialist running for mayor in New York City, Chris. He's campaigning on raising income tax on the 1% of New Yorkers, freezing rents on rent-controlled apartments, and he plans to build a city-owned grocery store in each borough. Now, he's been making the rounds here in D.C., getting the endorsement of the Democratic establishment. What is the allure of socialism and socialists in this moment? And is there a danger for the Democratic Party aligning itself with these figures?
Oh, there's a huge danger for the Democratic Party, because then they're going to end up owning the results of this, the ruin that these sort of policies bring on proud cities and proud American cities. Now, this is another problem for the elites. This is a problem that has been caused in large part by that 1% in New York City and previous mayors and governors in New York, which is that the rent in New York is astronomical. The living conditions are deplorable for huge numbers of people. huge amounts of people are forced to live like insects in essentially filthy hives with terrible landlords and rising rent if they're not in rent controlled places. And when you don't take care of that, when you don't have more common sense solutions to actually solving this sort of thing, you're going to get a populist outrage. The United States was close to having a Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump ended up harnessing that instead and moving in a different direction. But that rage, that feeling that the middle class is being hollowed out, that American dream is no longer affordable, that people can't get what their parents had and never have a shot at, and their children are in even more trouble, is continuing to grow in a lot of these places. And socialism will take advantage of that and ruin it if it's not addressed.
In another closely watched mayoral race, and it feels like New York, Minnesota State Senator Omar Fatah is running for mayor of Minneapolis. Now, he also is a Muslim Democrat socialist. Mr. Fatah received the endorsement of Minnesota's version of the Democratic Party, the chapter there, over the two-term incumbent Democrat Jacob Fry. Now, Chris, Minneapolis is the first major U.S. city to have a Muslim call of prayer broadcast over loudspeakers multiple times a day. What do you make of the increasing number of Muslim candidates finding political success here, and this idea of socialism being merged with the Islamic, at least messaging that affects and reaches so many parts of that community already in place?
A moderate Muslim friend warned me about this 10 years ago. He called it the Red-Green Alliance, that these are people who seem like they don't have shared values, but they do in their hatred of the Christian West and their wish, that their belief that is completely unjust, in that this is about the haves and the have-nots, or the oppressed and the oppressors, as opposed to civilization versus barbarism, or Christianity versus the Great Void. And it's also a failure, but it's also a failure of the secular state and the secular left, that they don't understand that they can't just ask that there not be a God in the public space. There will be a God. And if the Christian God is not represented, then Muhammad will be his prophet. And that's what you're going to get in places like this. That's what you're getting in England, and other places have drifted away from actually having beliefs, because a lot of these candidates, a lot of these immigrants do believe in their religion. They do believe that there's right and wrong, and they believe that their religion is right and yours is wrong. So if you don't stand up, then you're going to end up with foreign religions that are completely anathema to Western values and the secularism that was preached that allowed it here, and it's going to replace you.
Oh, it breaks your heart when you see these beautiful old Catholic churches, in Buffalo, in parts of the Midwest.
Yes.
And they're being sold and transformed into mosques. But, people say, oh, this is terrible. Well, it's also the effect of when you don't properly teach the faith, when you scandalize people over a long series of years, they scatter. They don't come. And if you don't have people in the pews, you can't keep the building open. So the loss of the architecture is just the tip of the iceberg. That's kind of the leading indicator that something's wrong. The problem is, it seems so many in the church are not willing to take that inner introspection and say, wait a minute, what caused this? How did we build these magnificent cathedrals and churches all over the country and the world, and why are we losing them today?
That's our role. The state can't do it. The
Right.
Christians have to do it themselves. The church has to do it.
Yeah. Final question. Late night comedian Stephen Colbert's Late Show has been canceled after 10 years. I did a full autopsy of the Colbert Show, and others like it, and how I think they distorted the form of late night, and that's what led to their demise. That's on the Arroyo Grande Show on YouTube. But I want to get your reaction to the reaction. Some partisans suggest the show was canceled to appease President Trump as his administration oversees the CBS Paramount merger. This is Sonny Hostin of The View.
If it is political, this is the dismantling of our democracy. This is the dismantling of our Constitution, right?
Chris, is the Colbert cancellation really a threat to democracy and the Constitution?
No, and he's so far removed from Johnny Carson. I've laughed more times at the reaction to this show's cancellation than I did during his 10-year run actually hosting this show, because it wasn't funny. It was political. It didn't try to reach all Americans. It tried to reach a certain segment, which is now up in arms. By the way, there's very few people who are still watching it. It was losing $40 million a year. People weren't paying attention. The only reason it was even remotely relevant is because the news companies that own it would pretend that it was relevant and include it in their reporting as if this was important commentary. It wasn't. It was a charity case, and it's easy for the left to try and blame Donald Trump for everything, but sometimes their own failures are responsible, and this is one of those cases.
We will leave it there. Chris Bedford, thank you so much. You can read Chris's columns at theblaze.com. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.